If you have been questioning whether or not you are intellectually capable of utilizing AI, it's best to first identify if you even need to utilize it. Ask yourself, will this God tier technology that is going to charge me, no matter what result I generate from it, will be beneficial to me or push my business forward? Chances are you most likely have 1 to 3 repetitive tasks at minimum or processes that can be safely and reliably handled by AI. But realistically, if you're not losing time or losing money due to manual overload, what's the point to automating or artificially intelligence sizing your business, right? Now, if you don't know who I am, my name is Shane. I'm coming to you live from the OpsGuardIQ headquarters, aka my home office. I am no multimillionaire that is preparing to push a course onto you. I am just a man who has been diving deep into the world of AI. I've been noticing all of the horror stories out there, servers being cleared, databases being wiped, agents not performing as intended, and I have been successful with my AI build, so I am sharing what I've been learning. Um, my ultimate goal right now, I'm bringing a SaaS product, software as a service, to market. It's a closed loop attribution tool for service businesses to help interact and connect with the correct target audience when they are running ads, as well as implementing processes and methods to make it easier for that target audience to work with the business at hand. So, enough about me. The TLDR version of this entire video, the one sentence that you can walk away with without having to listen to everything else I go into, is a one sentence that you can put into AI, whatever chat model, LLM model that you use now and in the future, as well as in your personal life when you're interacting with somebody who might be at a higher position than you, right? It's one question or one statement rather that you will bring to AI as long as you have a clear end goal in mind of what you actually want to build with, right? All you have to do, log into your AI. I personally use Claude, I use Gemini for some imaging as well, but with an ultra specific, detailed breakdown of what I want to build. I lay it out in the AI model and I say, hey, I want to build X, Y, and Z, uh, ultra specific detail, ultra specific detail, ultra specific detail. Help me build it and treat me as if I am a sixth grader in the world of this build. And it will treat you as a sixth grader, walk you through building whatever you want to build, and you will reach the end goal. Now, it's important to actually list what the dream outcome is because just articulating a bunch of random thoughts and feelings, right, to where you eventually want to go is exactly how you end up putting a goal together, not really detailing what it is, and never end up hitting it. It's the same thing with AI. You need to be ultra specific. I want $100 million by the end of the year with this approach, doing X, Y, and Z, working 5 hours a day, right? Whatever uh, fantasy world, fantasy story you want to tell yourself. That's exactly how you describe it to AI. You have to give it every single ultra specific detail because it has access to every data point, every piece of information out there on the internet. And if we are being vague or very broad in what we're describing to it, it will just make up and hallucinate any answer and any direction that it wants to take you in. Now, this is how I built my first live feed dashboard without ever building a dashboard to begin with in the first place. This is how I put together my content auto publisher, scheduler, engine, multiplier machine, however you want to call it, giving it the end goal, describing exactly what I want to take place, telling it to treat me as if I'm a sixth grader in this field, and then it just walked me through building it myself. Now, I do take the approach of putting a human touch on every single thing, every single step that goes into it. I like to be a part of because I want to avoid all of the horror stories out there of agents doing things that were not intended or expected or going outside of the scope of the build. Databases being cleared, servers being wiped, right? So if you're new to AI and you're hearing these horror stories, it's simply just a lack of limitations being put in place as well as expectations being put in place. And actually building with the AI instead of just letting it build what it wants to build, right? Being ultra specific in the end goal, the steps or the limitations that need to take place alongside of achieving the result, right? So now we're going to, if you want to stick around and hear my thoughts on what type of actual skills we need in order to successfully use AI. I'm going to dive into some personal as well as some business goals and then give you a high level breakdown of essentially what goes into automating or AIing a manual process that we have in store, right? That's the best case scenario or the best situation, circumstance. I'm blanking on the word. The best thing that we can use for AI and automation is something that's already being done today in the business, not a idea or thought that we think is cool, right? That we haven't acted on unless, we're a one man band who's just doing everything that we possibly can. AI comes around and we can start doing what we need to do. Different stories, right? Different situations. But if you're running a big business and you haven't been operating in a with an approach before and you just think this is a cool idea, you might want to go through the process of actually seeing if it's necessary because it could end up being a waste of time implementing it. So let's dive into it. So what skills do we actually need to use AI? In my opinion, you don't need any physical traits or characteristics to use AI. If you can sit down for a couple of hours, go into a deep focus, and get a job done, that's 90% of it, right? The rest is being able to use AI to your advantage, leverage it, right? Use it for high impact goals or actions to be taken in your business. I have a split for personal skills that we can have as well as business skills that we can have, which are both important. I think I've noticed myself advancing these skills as well as tapping into them on numerous occasions while I'm utilizing AI simply because it is a digital robot, right? So, also for some context, right? In this case, for this video, we're talking about how can we use AI as a broad statement, right? There's chat. You can use AI for chat. You can use AI to build agents. You can use AI to put together tools and services. So there are very different outcomes that can be achieved with AI. The high level breakdown, what I'm going to go into is how to take a manual process and automate it, turn it into an agent or a service, right? So we're using a chat model for AI realistically. And for the most part, we're using a chat model to build an agent. We're talking with the chat model of Claude, for example. You have a small subscription or an entry level subscription. Go into Claude. Hey, I want to build a agent for X, Y, and Z. Hopefully, you are well versed in that atmosphere of what you want to build the agents in, right? For example, if we aren't that good at sales, building a sales agent might not turn out to be good simply because we're not good at it and we're feeding the information to build the sales agent. So if we are good at something and we want to take some work off our plate, we are replicating the process, building an agent or a service that we just input data or whatever the case may be is to derive an output or a result, right? So as we're talking to the AI, it's very important, also very detrimental to our own mental strength to not just blindly accept what AI tells us, right? We do want to question it. Again, there are millions and millions and millions of data points that AI is accessing. It's taking opinions from others on the internet to provide you with an answer. So if you're not comfortable with an approach that it's taking, it's okay to say, hey, I don't want to actually work that way. I found it best to go this way, X, Y, and Z, whatever the case may be, right? So let's dive into what I'm actually going to talk about, the skills that we need. And it's all mental, right? Because if you don't get it down right, your communication skills with AI, it is a back and forth battle of figuring out where you want to go. And of course, this is for, I'm talking in the sphere of actually putting together systems and processes, automating methods and softwares, whatever the case may be, bringing softwares in house, right? If you're just asking it questions, it's much simpler than this. You don't need all this detail if you're just asking it, hey, what's the square root of pi? Or how big is the world? Is the world flat or is it a sphere? How far away is the sun? Different different situations, right? So if we're actually building things and implementing AI in our business, this is what I think are the skills that will drive the highest results. Starting off with the ability to articulate, something I am still working on, advancing. As you can see, I am rambling right now, but the ability to articulate in an ultra specific, detailed manner, because again, AI has access to every data point and piece of information on the internet. It can take a vague description of what you want to accomplish and go in 20 different variations, bring you 20 different variations of outcomes if you're not ultra specific in what you want to accomplish. Critical thinking as well. You know, AI is built, again, I'm going to mention this maybe too many times. It's built on every piece of information out there that humans put out there onto the internet, with a lack of actual real world experience and true understanding. So we need to apply our human capabilities to actually execute what we want to execute. Cause and effect, very important. Doesn't know, AI doesn't know what you're building. It doesn't know how it can negatively affect your business. We do keep in mind the positives of why we're putting things into place. But of course, systems or softwares without taking into consideration what negative effect can be brought from putting it in place can be pretty detrimental if we're not looking at every piece of detail, right? Every single risk or reward that can come from it. Patience. Why do we need patience? Because of the first three. Self-explanatory. Just it's if you haven't sat down building for hours, you wouldn't understand. But once you start to, you will start to realize that your patience has been tested. And a cool thing is, you can say, hey, you are not achieving the goal that I want to achieve. I will ship you off to Russia so you can work with somebody who has a less cool idea than I do. You need to get your shit together and start actually executing what I need to be executed, and it will work together. So maybe patience might not even be a top five skill to have, because you can just tell it, I'm going to put you in a box and ship you off, and it'll work better. There are rules in certain AI LLMs that will identify humans' frustration and start to work a little better or take a different approach, take a step back and look at all the angles. It's pretty intense, right? And then a nuanced comprehension, the ability to have a nuanced comprehension of how everything being put together can affect you, your business, your operations, whatever the case may be, is extremely important, I believe, because if we're just blindly putting in place an AI system or a software or a method, whatever the case may be, you can turn into one of the AI horror stories. I recently saw one where chat logs got leaked or something, which I'll dive into a little bit when we get into the main whiteboard, where chat logs got leaked or indexed onto Google, and every page of the chat log became an actual page on Google somehow because people were just not using it correctly. That's what it all boils down to. When AI is not doing what you want it to do, it's because you're not using it correctly. We have to treat it as if it's a tool, not just something that we can let run on its own and successfully deliver the result that we want it to. Now, onto the business side of things, bottleneck analysis, extremely important, right? We want to be able to identify what we can 2x the results in fastest, or maybe fill in gaps first, right? Because we're not just putting together AI and automation for no reason. We want to actually achieve a goal. Data-driven decision making, we want to be able to identify what we can 2x first and then actually act upon it. Speed of execution, we want to act on it fast. Delegation, if we have the ability to delegate it off to somebody. Of course, there are those one-person teams making millions, potentially billions in the future, so delegation might not be a necessity, right? Of course, AI is self-delegating, right? A master agent will delegate off to a sub-agent. It is in the nature of utilizing AI to be able to delegate. And then risk tolerance. Of course, we got to be okay with it not working right the first time, because I have spent many hours realizing that risk tolerance is important in business, because not everything's going to work as fast as you expect it to. Things take much longer than you expect it to, actually. And when you're okay with lengthening your time horizon, success is inevitable. Now, on to the main picture thing, right? What actual AI skill do we need to have to use AI? Is probably the ability to take a manual process and break it down step by step and give the automation or the AI the exact breakdown of how the manual process works. So we have repetitive, time consuming, or money draining, potentially money, cash, however you want to call it, cash 2xing, right? You want to gain more, or sporadic shit that just takes up an hour a week, maybe 2 hours a month, whatever the case may be. That's just a pain and can easily be forgotten, that you want to just automate and have AI handle when it comes about. We have these tasks, right? And then, of course, you have bigger builds, things that you want to maybe bring in softwares or systems in house. You want to stop paying the subscription, which is something I like to work on. It's pretty cool to be able to execute those big builds. And then we need to decide, once we have the idea of what we actually want to execute, we need to decide if it's deterministic or agentic. And the cool thing about words is we can write down the definition and learn what they mean. I like to just write down on a little note card what these words mean, because there's so many different words out there in the world, right? We got to have a nuanced comprehension of how to use them. Deterministic essentially is following a fixed hard-coded setup that produces the same outcome time and time again. The variables of the inputs differ, they range, right? You know, maybe you're processing forms, the inputs are different every single time, but the output is the exact same thing. Maybe it gets sent to a receptionist or sent to your team, a setter, a sales member, whatever the case may be. Deterministic. An agentic AI setup is a little bit more free, still controlled when set up properly, but it uses reasoning to dynamically choose what steps or tools need to be accessed in order to produce the outcome at hand, right? You can set up an AI agent to take on a manual process that accesses multiple different tools, which we'll dive into in a second. And then once we understand whether this build that we're working on, right, is agentic or deterministic, we need to set together or set up a knowledge base, prompts, rules, triggers, and API access. A knowledge base is essentially the brain of the AI system, software, tool, resource, whatever the case may be. It's detailed, right? It's like your SOPs for an employee. A prompt is a little bit less in depth than the knowledge base. It is essentially taking the knowledge base, and the prompt is telling the AI what it is to do with the information, with the brain. What is the task at hand? What outcome are we achieving here? And then we go into some rules. What are the limitations? What are the expectations? What can you do? Emphasizing on what you cannot do. You cannot just access tool C. You are only allowed to access tool A and B. And then triggers. When do you start? What gets you going, right? When do you stop? How do you know when it's correct? Confirmations, verifications, things of that nature. APIs, access is just a way to access an API key. API keys are just keys to access certain platforms and tools without actually going into the platform, right? So if we have an AI agent who is processing forms, it can write down in a Google Sheet all the details of the forms without actually you having to go into the Google Sheet. It's doing it for you, which is pretty cool. And you can have an agent or a set of agents, a whole agent team with API keys accessing multiple different tools at a time. If we're I like to be on the safe side of things, so I have a team of 14 agents who handle something in my business where they are accessing, I would say, 6 to 7 separate platforms or tools, softwares, whatever the case may be. And an individual agent is handling each individual access point. So they're not all just doing every single thing. Everybody has their set of rules. They do every single thing that they need to do without doing another agent's task. And it's reliable. It doesn't, nobody goes out, nobody, I'm talking about them like they're people, but neither agent goes outside of the scope of what their rules are, what their prompts are. It moves reliably for the past 3 months, and it is great. And then a build Bible, right? So everything that makes up all of it, right? The knowledge base, the prompt, the rules, the triggers, the API. We build a build Bible as if we are going to exit the business, and it can be handed over to a human. They can read it. It can be handed over to a separate AI, different model, different platform, a different agent, right? Or maybe an internal AI agent who has access to everything, but only from the outside and can just read it and can communicate with clients or customers as a support agent, whatever the case may be, right? The Build Bible is very in depth. It is extremely in depth. Mine is I have about 3 to 5, I believe, build Bibles that are in depth, and they are well over 200 pages of Google Docs, simply because it captures what is being executed step by step, every agent, what it's for, right? What each step is for. It's very in depth. It captures the offer that the AI agent is working for. So yeah, it's very in depth. Now, that's my take on what skills you need to have to use AI. It's not as overwhelming as explained here. I think it's very simple. Once you put in a couple hours of work in it, right, you'll notice that you do need some critical thinking. You'll notice that you do need some bottleneck analysis. They're very simple. It might come off as overwhelming, but these are the things to keep in mind when executing builds, just because it will help you in the future as you're diving into it. That's all I got. If you liked the video, just follow along. I'll be making more videos as time goes by. I think I'm going to stick to a 3 video schedule per week. I'm going to work on that. Next video up is some actual on the computer proof of what some of this looks like, just to give you a better idea instead of sitting in front of a whiteboard and sharing things. If you're a business running ads and you need some help with closed loop attribution, we can do that for you. Our flagship model Track for FormLock handles that very well. It was built with the help of AI based on manual processes, right? I guess I won't dive into it too deep here, just because that's not the point of this video. That's all I got. I'm signing off. Hope this shared some value with you.